right. Hi, y'all. Welcome to episode 35. I'm so happy to be here and want to fill you in on a recent date I had. And of course, just catch up a little bit about my life. And of course, more importantly, remind you that I'm here, right? Okay, so I went ahead and went on another date. And those of you who follow me on social media know that I've been kind of like, I'm not dating anymore. I'm so over dating. I want to go on a date. I'm over it. I'm dying alone, right? And I'm okay with dying alone. I've had a great life. I love my dog. I've had 3 good husbands. My last one was my favorite one, ironically. But I'm just saying, like, I'm happy. Like, I'm okay. Oh, by the way, I also turned 51, which is kind of funny because I thought I was 52. I'm actually 51. I was born in 1971. Anyway, so I've been talking a lot about it, joking about it, but I think that there is some truth to a couple of things that I want to talk about today, right? So I want to talk about first date number 72, and I want to continue my series of why the fuck do I do what I do, right? So a lot of it's about relationships, and it's about like a study that was done by a professor that I'm going to mention in the next episode when I wrap this series up, and the season up. But what I want to talk about today is similarity. Okay, so if you take a look at similarity in datings and relationships, whether it's actual like your spouse or your family or extended family, what have you, or dating, for of course, for this example, similarity. Okay, so what we're looking for is traits that are most likely subconscious. Like, we're not realizing what's happening and why we're attracted to the same people. Sometimes we are, sometimes we aren't. Like, I've talked about physicality before, right? I'm, obviously drawn to like Irish men with blue eyes. I don't know why, but I am, right? Okay, so there's also similarity. So I've talked about before, I'm in the Army, been in the Army for almost 14 years. I've traveled a lot, love my career. But my point is, my personality over time has morphed to someone that a lot of civilians that I meet in New York don't like my personality. They think I'm crude. They think I'm gruff. They think I'm too, man-like, because I don't dress up very much. So I've been trying lately. I've been trying with a little bit more makeup, and I actually bought a couple dresses, which is funny because it's like 19 degrees. But anyway, and snowing. But anyway, so I'm working on, putting a little bit more effort. My personality has always been kind of, jeans, t-shirt, sweatshirt, Chucks, my favorite Doc Martens, that kind of thing. Anyway, so I'm working on it a little bit, but I'm really working on it for me. I'm not necessarily working on it for some random civilian that I haven't met, though I do think that there is some truth to similarity in my case where, one of the reasons I think I've been on so many dates is because excuse me. One of the reasons I think I've been on so many dates is because New York State is, a liberal state. And, there are some challenges when it comes to recruiting for the Army and for the military here. And I'm not going to turn this into a political debate, but I think that there's some truth to the fact that I've been in for almost 14 years. My sense of humor is probably a little too much for some people. I use the word fuck a lot. I can't help it. It's just like the way I am at this point. I can't communicate if I can't say fuck, which is actually funny because I'm about to conclude a business class and we had to do some video recordings on their system, and it was challenging for me to not use profanity. Anyway, but I did really well. I have a 91 so far, 1 assignment left, and then the class is over, and then I get a break to the first week of January. I'm so excited. I'm doing really well in college. I'm excited. Okay, but back to similarity. So similarity in relationships is basically us looking for similar qualities that we find in another person. A lot of it kind of makes sense, right? Like, you don't want to go out with someone that hates music if you love music. Of course, all of your, similarities are not going to be the same, right? And I think it would be boring if our similar qualities were the same, right? Things that I like, which I think are fucking awesome because I like them. Other people may not like them, specifically if they're civilian male in New York. Anyway, but it also goes back to nature and nurture. And it goes back to, like how you were brought up. So like for myself, for example, unfortunately, I grew up in a situation, which I've shared here before, where my father was abusive, right? So I think, unfortunately for me, sometimes I think I have sought out individuals that had those characteristics within themselves, right? And I've been very lucky. I've never had an abusive situation since my father, but I think that there's some personality traits, then unfortunately I look for, because that's how I grew up, right? I was like an infant to eight, and that's just how I grew up, right? So when it comes to similarity, that's something that we're looking for. So whether it's good or bad, think about similarity within your choices if you're dating. And, also think about it like if you have children that are dating, friends, family that are dating, even if you're married, it's just good to like identify things that are just like core to you. Because, just like with everything else, I mean, there's positives and bad, positives and negatives with everything. Similarity to me is fascinating because we seek out what we find comfort in. So like I said, for myself, I came from an abusive relationship. Obviously, I don't want an abusive relationship, but if somebody has those qualities, I think subconsciously I'm drawn to them because that's what I'm familiar with. That's what I know. So it's interesting if you want to break cycles and things like that to just be aware, so that way you can break a cycle, especially if it's a negative cycle, right? If it's a positive cycle, keep doing it. Okay. So similarity, which I think is the perfect segue to talk about first date number 72. Okay. So first date number 72, I met, I don't know, like 5 years ago or so, maybe 6. So I was a reservist for most of my career. I did a lot of ADOS orders, which are like, the active duty operational support, right? So instead of being a traditional reservist, which is the 1 weekend a month and the 2 weeks a year, I would volunteer for orders, and my orders would be anywhere from like 90 days to a year to 6 months, whatever, right? Anyway, so there was a series that I'm not going to mention because you guys will figure out who this person is and I want to protect his privacy. But there was a series, because I want to protect everybody's privacy, but there was a series of ADOS orders that I went on, and he was working with one of them. He was actually kind of in charge, right? And I didn't have a ton of interaction with him, but we stayed friends, or we became friends after, social media, Facebook specifically, right? So we got along really well. I had like a rough situation actually when we were doing this like, order mission scenario, because I don't want to tell you too much, but I actually had, it was lower ranking, so I had a little bit of problem. I had a problem that I couldn't solve on my own. I had to like utilize my chain of command, and he was part of my chain of command, but not directly, because that way you guys can't figure it out. But anyway, I went to him for help, and he was very cool about it and very understanding, not judgmental in any way. It was a great non-commissioned officer and like handled it briefly, and it was fucking awesome. And then my problem went away. Okay, so, we stayed in touch. I was married. He was married. I was happily married. So I wasn't really focused on him in a romantic way at all. I was just kind of like, oh, he's a cool guy. He's funny. We have mutual friends here. Obviously, he's a badass NCO. He'd protect me, so it was awesome, right? So when the mission ended, a lot of us became, Facebook friends, and he was one of them. And we kept in touch that way. So, of course, I found out much later that he unfortunately was divorced, which sucks because obviously none of us get married to get divorced. So, I sympathize with that, and it kind of sucks. But, of course, as you know, if you follow me on social media, specifically Facebook, I think I'm funny as fuck. So a couple of times, throughout the years, he would reach out and would laugh about a meme, make a comment, whatever, because, I'm funny. Anyway, so my niece got married in October in Texas, and I was supposed to go with CG, and obviously CG and I broke up in September, so I wasn't going to take him to the wedding in October, obviously in Texas. So me being funny because, I'm not dating anyone, and for a while I was kind of like, I was trying, and then I'm like, I don't want to try, and then I was like, well, let me just, I don't know. It's not even that I want to focus on myself. It's just like the time and the energy. I'm still a recruiter. I'm still in college. I still try to do my best with the podcast. I love my dog. I try to spend as much time with him as I can. I've become obsessed with boxing, so I'm trying to get all that in. So there's like a lot of things that are happening in my life, which I think are awesome. And dating apps have kind of fallen to the wayside, which is ironic because this is my podcast. But anyway, so me, in a bid to be funny, because I think I'm funny, I go on Facebook one day and I'm like, hey guys, anybody want to go with me to my niece's wedding in October in Texas? Because I don't have a date, kind of thing, right? So it was funny, and I didn't think you guys were going to respond, and I'm glad that you did because you're awesome. A couple of you were married, and I was like, no, I don't think your wife would appreciate that, but no. Anyway, so this particular person, number 72, reached out, and I thought he was kidding at first. And then I realized, oh, he's divorced. He's not kidding. Well, at least I wasn't sure, which is the whole purpose of this. Great story and similarity. So, obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously, but he's in the Army. I'm in the Army. He's been in for a while. I've been in for almost 14 years. We have a similar sense of humors. We kind of kind of followed each other a little bit on social media after our initial meet and work together, right? So we started, Facebook messaging here and there, and he was just like, yeah, because he responded to my post, of course in private, and he was like, yeah, I'll definitely go. He was like, let me just check my work schedule because I'm doing a lot of shit, and I would definitely go with you, and it'd be awesome to catch up and all that kind of thing. And I'm like, cool, what a great friend vibe, what a great NCO. Guy was cute, still is cute. Well, this could be fun, right? I don't know where this is gonna go. This would be fun. So we chatted for a couple days, and then unfortunately he couldn't go for like work obligations. He couldn't get out of it. So Army, I get it. So I'm just like, no big deal. Like really, it's not a big deal, but it would have been fun. Anyway, so I don't know. So I kind of said something like, well, not a big deal. I appreciate your effort kind of thing. Because obviously I always appreciate when people are nice to me in some way. So I'm just like, whenever we see each other again, because of course he's in a different state, which I'm not going to mention. He was like, yeah, no big deal. And sorry, it couldn't work out. And I was like, yeah, but whenever I see you again, whenever I make it to your place or my place or somewhere similar place state, I was like, I'll buy you a couple beers, thank you. So we started talking about bourbon. It was awesome. And he was like, okay, cool. And then he was like, November, let's make it happen in November. I'm like, yeah, let's catch up in November. Anyway, so of course time goes by, and it's November. My birthday, of course, is November 30th, by the way, because I kind of mentioned it a lot because it's a fucking awesome day. But anyway, because I'm here. But anyway, as we got closer to my birthday and we just started chatting again, we lost touch a little bit. He was just kind of like, I don't want you to think that I don't have interest. I've just been really busy with work, which I get because sometimes I get busy as fuck with work. So I'm like, not a big deal. If you want to catch up in November, let's do like an old school phone call and then we'll figure out, where we're going to meet and location and all that kind of shit. He's like, awesome. So we did that. We ended up having a phone call. And it was interesting because it was instantly a friend vibe, and it was good because it was the similarity, right? Like we had things in common. Like I know we would get along in person because we got along in person before, right? So, and then we've been a little bit in touch. So similarity. So I'm just kind of like, oh, it's a good phone call. It's a good friend vibe. I like it, whatever. So we coordinated, where he was flying in, all that kind of stuff. And because traditionally for my birthday, I should say traditionally, but lately for my birthday, since I've been divorced, the last 3 birthdays in a row, I've gone out of town by myself to celebrate my birthday. I went to the Adirondacks, which is beautiful mountains in New York. And then I went to Tampa all by myself. And then I went to this year, Adirondacks again, beautiful mountains with number 72. So he flew in. I went to go pick him up. We, of course, had coordinated everything. Well, I was about to go pick him up, and I had actually got really sick, and fuck it, because I wasn't going to say this on the podcast, but fuck it. Okay, so he was coming in on a whatever day, right? So I love my dog. My dog's always in my Jeep. So as a result, my Jeep is always covered with dog hair, right? Because I love Ike. Ike is an Akbash. He shreds like 24/7. I do what I can to clean, my car, vacuum, lint brush it, the whole bit or whatever, kind of Febreze it down because the whole back is his. But the day before number 72 was supposed to fly in, I was like, you know what? I have that day off right before he comes in because, I'm on leave for my birthday. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to clean up, my apartment, get my laundry done, all that kind of shit. Because we were going to be gone for like a handful of days. And then I was going to come back and go right back to work. Right. So I was like, so this is perfect. So I'll go ahead and clean up my place, pack a little bit, get my shit ready for work when I come back. That way, when I go out of town, I go out of town because Ike was coming with us. Okay. So the day before, I was supposed to clean my Jeep really well, which would have been the last step to get ready to go to the mountains. I decided to make a steak. I love steak. I've been like obsessed with red meat lately. I'm always trying to lose weight. I don't know, fucking obsessed with red meat. Anyway, so I made steak, and apparently either it was a bad cut or I didn't cook it well enough, which is weird because I make steak all the time, but I legit was in the bathroom like 20 of the 24 hours the day before number 72 was to fly in. So unfortunately, I didn't get to clean my Jeep and my stomach was just jacked up. I was just in the bathroom, just miserable with diarrhea. Obviously, it was some sort of like mild food poisoning. I was like texting my mom and anyway, she was just like, it sounds like food poisoning. What did you eat? That kind of stuff. I love my mom. She's awesome. So she was giving me a couple tips just to get through the day. And then she was like, in the first thing in the morning, if you're still sick, then it's not food poisoning. Go to the emergency room, please. I'm like, okay. No, my mom's right about everything. Fucking woke up the next morning. I was significantly better. Anyway, so I didn't get to clean my Jeep. So all of this is happening and he's about to fly in, right? And he was just like, because he got a little bit of problems with weather and traveling, and he was like, well, my second flight is delayed, so I'm not going to get there at 11 or whatever. Looks like I'm going to land just before midnight or just after midnight. And I was like, I didn't want to tell you this because this is like really not cool and kind of not sexy at all, but I've had diarrhea the whole fucking day, so it would be awesome if I could just pick you up in the morning, I know that sounds shitty for everybody listening, but it was a little bit of a drive, and my fucking stomach was upset. So he's like, cool guy, and he's like, yeah, no problem, whatever, I can get an Uber, not a big deal, there's a hotel super close to the hotel, I'll see you in the morning. I'm like, awesome. So sure enough, I wake up, as I said, my mom was right. I feel much better. So I pack up, the Jeep with Ike, and then we get on the road, and I'm like, oh, my Jeep like smells like Ike's saliva, which is what my buddy tells me all the time at work. And I was like, it's just covered with like dog hair, but fuck it, So get there. And instantly, so I park, right? So I park at the hotel, and I take Ike out, so he can pee or whatever. So number 72 walks out, and of course I knew what he looked like, obviously. But when he was walking towards me, I'm going to be a little embarrassed because he'll probably listen to this, but that's fine. As he's walking towards me, I'm like fucking around with Ike, I'm like bent over, like, or kneeling or whatever. And I look up, and God, he is just like fucking cute and cuter than I remembered, right? So a little bit of gray hair, a little bit more gray than he had before, which is fine because, I'm the fucking same way. You just can't tell because I diet. But anyway, so he's walking towards me, and I'm like, God, he looks cute. Like, he's aged really well. I mean, it's only been like fucking 4 or 5 years, but he looks really good. And the first thing he said was just like, hi, beautiful. And I was like, wow, because I wasn't sure if this was a friend vibe or not because of the similarity. So, we give each other like a pretty good hug, and then, he talks to Ike, and we get on the road, and we had a great trip. I'm not going to go into too much details with it because I'm afraid you guys are going to figure out who he is, but it was a really good trip. We had a lot of great laughs, a lot of great meals. The place we stayed in was gorgeous. Ike was awesome. Everything about the trip was great. But what was interesting about it was several nights, and we had a lot of fun with the area that we were in. Ike was awesome. Every restaurant we went to was great. We bought too much bourbon. We went to a liquor store, and we came back with like 6 bottles, but whatever. Bud Light, which is my fave. And we got along really well. We bought a couple great cigars, but we never really did anything other than the initial hug. And it was weird because I found out later that we were both caught up with such a friend vibe. We were like, is this going to be romantic? I don't know. And it ended up being platonic and awesome as shit. And I'm really glad that it happened, and I'm very grateful to him. My favorite thing about this is this whole trip, which was awesome, and I'm so grateful for it because it was a great way to celebrate my birthday with my dog, beautiful mountains, cute man. I'm a terrible parallel parker. So we go up to this location near Lake Placid, and I'm in my Jeep, right? And I'm just like, there's nowhere to park. And I'm like, it's kind of chilly, And I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to jump out if you could parallel park. And he's like, sure, right? Because he's like alpha male, right? So he gets out. There's like a truck or whatever behind him. It's a tiny street if you've never been to Lake Placid. And anyway, so he parallel parks, he reverses, I'm watching, and this is like my moment to shine. And I think he literally said, fuck, this is my moment to shine. He backed up, went forward, hit the car in front of him. It was awesome as shit. It was hilarious because he got out and he was like, fuck. Anyway, it's funny. But that was my favorite moment, aside from all the laughs and great food. And it was just awesome. It was a great experience. But I'm going to fuck it up again. Similarity and familiarity are interesting to me because they go hand in hand, right? You're attracted to people because you have similar quality, similar taste. You feel familiar, right? So he's still in the Army. I'm still in the Army. We spent most of our conversations talking about the Army, good and bad, right? Because it's familiar and it's similar to us, right? So I think it's interesting. I'm really grateful that we had the date. I'm glad we went on the date. Hopefully we do get to see each other again. We've been in touch a little bit since. He's busy, I'm busy, which I get. We live in different states, and I mean, fuck, it's going to be Christmas. So hopefully we can catch up soon. I would love that. I would love to hang out with him again. But that pretty much just wraps up this, this episode. So if you have any questions, concerns, critiques, comments, what have you, you know where to find me. If I'm not back on here by Christmas, have a great fucking holiday, and love y'all. Talk to you soon.